Discerning Hearts presents In Search of the Still Point with Dr. Regis Martin. In Episode 7, Dr. Martin reflects on the lesson of Saint Benedict.
He was born near the end of the 5th century, in a city close enough to Rome to have felt the aftershocks of its fall, coming of age in a world that had completely lost its way. Thereupon, he was sent to Rome as a student, where, amid the ruins, he experienced firsthand the trauma of its loss. He then fled into the mountains, there to pursue an undistracted life of union with God. And he made an important discovery, one that would enable him to cast a great light upon an age whose descent into darkness could not be dispelled in any other way. Who was this extraordinary figure, and what was the discovery he made? The answer is Saint Benedict, who became the father of Western monasticism. And the discovery he made was in the context of a serious and protracted pursuit of sanctity, of self-mastery, of trying to draw close to God. That by turning his back on the world in order to turn his face to God, Benedict became, without ever quite intending it, a profound agent of change, of helping to regenerate a fallen world. In other words, by his very exertions to overcome himself, to respond to the promptings of grace, the world he had left behind would itself become a better and more wholesome place. He was not alone in this, by the way. Others, inspired by his example, found themselves likewise determined on a life of intimacy with God. And soon enough, a community took shape in a place called Monte Cassino, some 80 miles to the southeast of Rome, a place where a pagan altar of Apollo had once stood. And before long, an immense movement of monasticism had been loosed upon the world, the ultimate flowering of which became the public profession of the Catholic faith by the scattered peoples of Europe. Res Publica Christiana. From such modest beginnings, an entire civilization in which everything was to be anchored to Christ, soaked in the blood of the Lamb, would crystallize round the church he fashioned to draw the world to himself. Meanwhile, some 1,500 years later, new and yet more sinister times have arrived, plunging us into another dark age, against which we shall need to take up arms. The lesson of Benedict can certainly show us the way, especially since this time around, as the writer and philosopher Alistair MacIntyre reminds us, quote, "The barbarians are not waiting beyond the frontiers, poised, as it were, to pounce upon a hapless race. Rather, he tells us, they have already been governing us for quite some time. Our not knowing this," he adds, "constitutes part of our predicament." To undertake this great work, it will not be necessary to found new monasteries, nor will we be required to scorn the world that God made, nor those goods and pleasures that he allows. But a spirit of detachment will be needed, which is, as always, the obligation of all, not the prerogative of the few. We are Catholics, after all, not Cathars. Bloom where you are planted, as they say. Become that tiny little flame of love for God and neighbor, which, even amid the chaos and the violence, the world cannot blow out. And learn, once again, to sing the Lord's song in a strange land. Thanks for listening. This is Regis Martin, talking to you from the still point of the turning world.
You've been listening to Dr. Regis Martin in Search of the Still Point. For more episodes in this series, visit discerninghearts.com, or you can find it in our free Discerning Hearts app or on many other streaming platforms. Discerning Hearts is a 501c3 nonprofit Catholic apostolate dedicated to evangelization and spiritual formation through the use of new media. To learn how you can support our mission, visit discerninghearts.com.